Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jack Reynolds. I will be your instructor for this section of Econ 2301 or 2302, depending on which one you're taking. One is Principles of Macroeconomics, one is Principles of Microeconomics. The structure for the classes are virtually identical, so I'm going to make one video, one welcome video for both classes that I can upload that you can view on the first day of school, the first day of class. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through the syllabus. We're going to talk about the Canvas course page and what's on there and what's available to you. And then that should be a fairly complete introduction and welcome, I think. I hope. Anyway, so let me go ahead and minimize me down there. This is the course page, and my online macro class actually has 107 students in it. There's actually 3 different sections, 30 students per section, and then there's the dual credit section. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I have a 12-year-old son, and he brought me his puppy to see and say hi to, and then had to step off. So my apologies. But this is the Canvas course page. As I was saying, this particular online macro section is actually 3 different sections, 30 students per section. One of the 3 sections is a dual credit section, and it's got 17 extra students in there. So there's actually 107 students part of this course right here. But I will show you I'll also show you the micro stuff, and that it's virtually identical. Okay. So there's that. Let's just go. We're going to go right to the syllabus first. So go into the course info here, and then click on syllabus. All right. So there it is. This is the online section. All right. My office hours, Monday to Wednesday for 45 minutes each day, 2:15 to 3. And then on Tuesday and Thursday for 2 hours and 45 minutes, almost 3 hours from 10:15 to 1 p.m. I'm in the Hand Building, room 218. I also have some virtual office hours. And for y'all, many of you may not even be on campus, so feel free to just, even during any of these office hours or any other time for that matter, send me an email and ask if I'm available for Zoom. I will absolutely be available, barring some sort of something going on that's preventing me from getting there. But these are definitely times that I am available to meet with you via Zoom if necessary. So if you have any if you need that, just email me and I will send you the instructions. I'll be monitoring my email during those times, particularly vigilantly. So we will see. Here's the description that comes from the catalog. For macro, the syllabus for micro will have the same thing. So you might read that as time allows. The outcomes obviously are different for each class. And by the way, well, that's all right. Never mind. They're the outcomes here. The first 2 are the same for both because we're going to study supply and demand in both micro and macro. But at that point, they diverge, and macro goes into the more macro-specific topics like the macroeconomic indicators, GDP, unemployment and inflation, business cycle, so forth and so on. You can certainly familiarize yourself with those topics. The textbook as well. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with our Day 1 program by now. You already have access to this material. It was part of the tuition that you paid the school. And so all of my courses are in Day 1 access. So you'll also want to have a computer with a working webcam and a microphone. There will be 5 unit exams plus a final exam, all of which are online and must be proctored by the shutdown browser. What's the name for the company? I can't think of it off the top of my head now, but that's all right. But that's what you'll get. Okay, and that's how we will do that. As far as assignments, okay, so there's a handful of grading categories, the first of which is what I call the guided reading questions, or GRQ. This is worth 10% of your grade. All right, these are going to be small, short, simple assignments, nothing that's too time consuming or challenging, that you do the day before we meet. We would normally meet. Since this is an online class, you'll be watching a video in lieu of meeting us, but a meeting with us, I should say. But you will have you'll watch a video, but the day before you watch the video, you'll do the GRQ. It's meant to kind of introduce the concepts. It's nice and easy and simple. It's not time consuming. It's not meant to be anything too hard. But it is meant to kind of orient you and prepare you for what we're going to talk about in the lecture. Okay? I don't take late work, but I will drop 3 of your lowest GRQ grades. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Lecture quizzes. So in the video, there are questions embedded in the video through Edpuzzle, and so that's what you will do. You will watch a video, and as you're watching it, questions will pop up. You can you answer that question and move on to the if you can, and keep in mind that the question and the slide will appear at the same time, and so not always, but frequently the answer to the question will be on the slide that's next to it. So keep that in mind. And that's my lecture quizzes. Those are every single lecture video will have a quiz associated with it, unless otherwise specified. And there's only 1 or 2 that I can think of that don't have a question. I think the appendix for chapter 3 doesn't have any questions, and I made that just optional video. But if it's a required lecture video, then there will be at least 1 question, okay, that you'll need to answer for a grade, okay, and that's 25% of your grade, okay. And then there's the homework grade. That's due the very day after the lecture, the video that you watch. All right. Late work again. In all cases, late work isn't accepted. I'll talk about that more, but I will drop a handful. It says 2 here, but that's actually going to be 3. I don't know why that says 2. I don't know how some of these things got changed. It's very strange to me. But anyway. So that's homework. Then there are 6 units, and there will be 5 unit exams. There will not be an exam for the 6th one because of time. And I could put it in. I'll show you the schedule. I could have fit it in instead of doing a final exam review. I could have just done a Unit 6 exam, but I don't want to give you 2 exams back to back to back. I don't want you to do it, take an exam on the last day of class, organized class, and then you have to start final exams like the very next day. That's a little rough. So I just fold the questions on that unit exam into the final exam, and that seems to work pretty good. So the unit exams are 30%, 5 of them, that's 6% each. Each one's worth 6 points. And the final exam is worth 20 points. Okay? Keep in mind, again, you're going to be using Respondus. That was the name of the software. I was trying to remember it. Respondus, the lockdown browser, folks. So that's what you'll use to proctor all your unit exams and your final exam. And should probably not pluralize that. We only have 1 final exam in this class. But anyway, so keep in mind, this date is set by the school, not by me. I have no control over that, and I don't have the ability to give you another the test some other day. You have to take it on the final exam when it's scheduled. Here's our scale. You can look at that. All right, so about late work. Generally speaking, if you do not have a well-documented emergency that precluded you from being able to complete the assignment, or some kind of school function, you're an athlete, you were at a soccer game or rodeo or something, then of course I can work with you on these assignments. But generally speaking, if it is not a school function, and I mean something that ever it's an organized thing, not just I had a date with a girl that's in my class or something. Let's not be silly about this. All right. So if it's a school function, or if you have a well-documented emergency, a close member of the family has been hospitalized or something, right? Though, and it has to be documented. You got to be able to show some sort of evidence that this is happening. You can't just claim that it happened. Then we can work with you. But other than that, I generally do not allow late work at all. But I will drop your 3 lowest GRQ grades, your 3 lowest lecture quiz grades, and your 3 lowest homework grades. 9 different grades I'm going to drop. Okay? There's about 20 of each of those. So it's not like there's plenty left. So, there's any number of things that might happen that might cause you to miss a day of school that doesn't rise to the level of an emergency and was not a school function of some sort. And so this is meant to just allow you to have a couple of bad days. Not the end of the world. But you want to save those for when you actually have a technology failure. That, that's an example of one. I'm not going to allow you to turn in work because you claim your computer's not working. I don't have any way of verifying that. And I don't have any way of troubleshooting the problem. So you have to have, a requirement of this class is a working computer. It has to have a webcam. It has to be able to take audio and video. And so, it's up to you to take care of your work in this class. Okay. So just keep in mind that if it's not an emergency or a school function, my answer is going to be no. So to me, it's just better to not even bother asking me. Because I don't like having to do this. I don't like having to deal with this when I've already explained exactly what it is. And that's why I dropped 3 grades. Why should I drop 3 grades and extend all the due dates for you? How does that make sense? I think this is very fair for everybody and more than generous. If you disagree, let me know. No extra credit, okay? Not going to curve your grades or nothing. Just turn in your work, do it right, do it as best you can, and move forward, okay? You are solely responsible for completing the assignments when they are due, obtaining all the assignments and other material for classes that you may have missed because you were absent, being sure you have access to everything, utilizing study aid options. I'll show you some things I give you to help you with the course, and you have however much effort is necessary for you to be successful in the class, okay? But having said that, I want you to understand something. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. This is not an easy class. College economics is not easy. For what it's worth, students around the world hated college economics. It is the bane of college students' existence everywhere. So it's okay. I think the reason why is because economics is not like your other subjects. It's not like English or math or history even, right? I mean, all new history is being made every day, but it doesn't really change how it's delivered or what's chances are quite a bit of the current events happening. It's economics is one of those subjects that hardly any of you have ever even really spent any time at all studying. The theory behind our economy is just not something the average student is all that interested in. If you took a high school AP macro or even the AP micro class, you will have an advantage in here. Maybe you didn't pass the AP exam. It's hard. I don't blame you. But the material, if you paid attention halfway, then you're going to recognize a lot of the things we talk about in here. That will help you. But the overwhelming majority of you have never really had any economic study. I know Texas high schools has that little free enterprise class, right? Taught by a social studies teacher, usually a coach, and usually it's the wrestling coach, the guy with no neck, who's doing this, who's teaching this. So, and you're not going to get much, there's not a whole lot of substance in that class. There's so much more in this one than you might find in that class. So I don't think that one is really going to help you prepare you much for this one. So that's really why so many people, I think, hate this subject, because it's so new and it's not very easy to understand. A lot of theory, a lot of moving pieces to this. All right. So it can be real challenging to go from virtually no understanding of the economy to a thorough introductory understanding of the economy, particularly when the economy is as complex and dynamic as our economy is. Right. And really most economic systems, but ours is pretty crazy. Let me tell you. So my first piece of advice to all students all the time, every semester, please don't internalize your performance in this class. Don't take it personal. I promise you, it is not a reflection of how smart you are or how capable you are. It is a reflection of how weird and awkward studying the economy can be. Okay? So that's my first recommendation. You are not alone. Lots of students struggle with this. It's going to feel weird and strange at times. Do the best you can, ask questions, and be sure you understand that in a classroom, that's the best place to admit you don't know something, right? That is, I can't imagine a safer, better place to say, I don't know. So feel free to always let me know that you're not understanding something. I may not be able to explain it any better. I may not be able to get you over the hill there, but I know I can't if you don't let me know that you need some help with it. Okay? You might also, another reason why some people I suspect find the economy challenging is because it will it will challenge your assumptions about the world that we live in some ways. Probably, if you let it. It may not if you don't care, if you're not paying attention. Okay. You're certainly free to do that. You're not going to get much out of it. You may not even pass the class with that kind of attitude, but hey, give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. But if you do care and you are listening and you are paying attention and trying to learn something, it might make you feel, it might trigger you a bit. That can happen. Had it happen. It's okay. Feel comfortable with that. Embrace that. There's not a thing wrong. Sometimes that's what learning is. Sometimes learning is uncomfortable. Sometimes learning is figuring out, hey, I had something wrong here. My thinking about this subject was wrong. I always believed it was this way. It turns out it was this way. It happens all the time. Lord knows it happened to me when I majored in economics. So sometimes this class will spin you around. That's the one thing I want you to be sure that you try to push through, to really work on, because it's in that process that you work through that the most learning is going to seep in. That's where you're going to figure out the most. Okay? And it's important to understand, you are under no obligation to accept any of the orthodoxy I present in this class. You are free to challenge every single thing I say related to the economy. All right? Can't challenge me just because I said I'm having a good day or I'm having a bad day. But certainly when it comes to the economy, fair game. Go for it. You are not under any obligation to accept anything I'm telling you. Now, you may have to know it for a test or something, but you're not required to believe that this is true. And I would further highly, highly recommend you let me know. Send me an email somehow or another. Let me know. Yeah, I think you're wrong about this, Dr. Ronald. Let me tell you why. Okay, let's have that exchange. I think that's one of the reasons why that place that you find yourself in, where you're feeling a bit pushed around by a reality you previously had not really made yourself too much aware of. If you'll just work through that and embrace that, I think you'll find that you're learning a lot. That's where that comes from, and take from that experience, hopefully, a better appreciation for opportunities to learn in the future. So, all right. So, my doctoral degree is in educational leadership and policy studies. One of the few advantages of that is that I got really familiar with the research regarding pedagogy, how we learn, right? And one of the things I learned in this research was that for students to be able to reasonably expect a student to perform well on an exam or something about material they've never heard of before this class, they recommend that they be exposed to these concepts at least 3 different times, right? And that's how my class is set up. You have a pre-class assignment, that's the guided reading question, or GRQ. You have the in-class assignment, that's the lecture quiz, or LQ. And then you have the post-class assignment, which is your homework. All right? And each one is designed to build on the other in such a way that by the time you sit down with a test, it's not as bad as it would otherwise be. I will also tell you that it does not have to be, it doesn't have to be all that bad to begin with. Let me explain. So, one of the things I do, and I probably shouldn't have started this because they issue a new textbook every couple of years, and I'm always having to redo this, and it takes a long time. It's a pain in the butt. But what I do is I go through for each chapter, I go through their test bank, and I find 2 questions in that test bank that's basically asking about the same thing. I'll give you an example of one in just a moment. So, give me just a second. All right. Sorry about that. I wanted to take a second. So, as I was saying, I go through the test bank for each chapter. I find 2 questions that's basically asking about the same thing, right? Not the same question, but it's asking about the same thing. Certainly in the vicinity of the same thing. I put one of those questions, the easier of the two of those questions will go on your exam, either unit exam or final exam. The more difficult of the two will go on my PowerPoint slides that I use to lecture from, or in the videos that you're going to be watching. All right. So when you see a question in that video, I'm telling you I will be asking you about this on the test. Okay. So let me show you how I did this. So for example, this is for Unit 6, and you're not going to see it anyway because I have a Unit 6. So here's a question for the, this is the practice test question. This is the exam question. Both asking about the Phillips curve. Difference between long run versus short run. One question asked about short run, one asked about long run, both about aggregate supply. This is one about beta, and this is asking, is this definition true? All right, so forth and so on. All right. So these are the ones on the right are my exam questions. The ones on the left are the questions you will see in class on or in the lecture videos. So from that, you should get some idea of what's going to be on the test. Further, please feel free to create a single sheet of notes that you can use on any exam, including the final. A single page, front and back. It must be handwritten. Excuse me. Need some water. It needs to be handwritten, not typed or photocopied. And it needs to be a single page at regular like copy paper, 8.5 by 11, right? Don't be unfurling some kind of scroll on the camera when you're taking your test, because that'll get you in trouble. Single page, front and back. You'll show it to the camera when you're taking your test. This is the math schedule that I worked on today or yesterday. But that you hold it up, show me that it's handwriting and blah, blah, blah. Then you can use those on the test. You can use, but you have to make them. So there's that. Okay. So keep that in mind. The tests do not have to be as bad as they might sound. Now, don't think simply because you have this written down, these notes, that you don't need to study. Because if you don't understand what you put in your notes, it's not going to help you much. And I promise you, I see it all the time. People create these cheat sheets, but they have no idea what's on it. They don't understand what's really there. So it doesn't help them much, and they didn't really try to find out because they have a cheat sheet. Why do they need to study if you have a cheat sheet? Bad choice. Don't make it. Okay? The rest of this is fairly standard language that's in most of our Weatherford College classes. For an online class, your attendance will be based on a timely completion of the lecture quiz. I don't care when you complete it. You can do it any time before the due date. Up to including the due date. Most of them will be available. You're welcome to go in there as you need to. You know what your schedule is. You know if you're going out of town in a few days and you won't be there to do that GRQ. You don't get more time to do these assignments simply because you didn't want to do them before you left. Okay? So plan your schedule and sit down and work around this stuff. Each time you complete a lecture quiz, as long as it's done on or before the due date, I will count you present for the purposes of attendance on that day. Okay? All right. And like I said, the rest of this is fairly standard language. Please do not be caught cheating. Okay? Please. That would not be fun. All right. And the rest of that I would highly recommend you look at. Now, if you need some kind of accommodations, then you're going to want to go through the school. I cannot provide accommodations to you without providing that same accommodation to everybody else in the class, unless the school has verified your information and you have a justifiable excuse for that accommodation. They will then forward that stuff to me, and I will do that. So if you have to take your test in the test center, that's fine, but you have to go through the school to accomplish that. I can't grant you that, and you can't just do it because you prefer it. There has to be a legitimate reason. You're diagnosed with dyslexia or something. You're easily distracted by sound stimulation, so you need a quiet workplace to focus. Those are things that you may have some sort of documentation showing a diagnosis that would allow those kinds of accommodations for you, but you have to go through the school. I can't do that for you, so keep that in mind. All right, so that's our syllabus. All right, that's the syllabus right there. Here's the schedule. Now, again, this is for macro. I'll show you the micro one in a moment. All right, and this is what the schedule looks like. It's just something you can print up, right? So Monday, January 13th is the introductions. That's what you're watching right now. That's this video and these things. And then on Wednesday, so the day before the lecture, this is the day of the lecture right here. LQs are the lecture quizzes. So the day of the LQs are due is the day that you're going to get the lecture on those. So you'll watch the video on Wednesday. The day before that, you do the GRQ. The day after that, you do homework. Okay? Now, we have a student holiday on the following Monday. It's MLK Day. Good gosh. So that's why we don't have school on Monday. So the next time you have a Tuesday GRQ, Wednesday lecture, Thursday homework. And then we have our first exam. And again, that will be through Respondus. And then you come back. And so you can see that's almost always the case. An assignment due the day before, the day of, and the day after for each chapter. Now, these are not necessarily hugely long and intelligent. Now, you're going to be in class an hour and 15 minutes or so regardless. So, yeah, you're gonna have some of that, my lecture quiz in class. But even the homework's not all that bad, folks. And it's every now and then you have things that happen on the same day, right? A homework and the GRQ for the next one's due. It doesn't come up often, but here and here, it does happen every now and then. Here and here. Again, there and there, and then here and here, not there, here and here. So every other week there's a chance of it. There's a chance of it because you're going to have a homework assignment from Monday's lecture due on Tuesday and a GRQ for Wednesday's lecture due on that same Tuesday. But on the following, but for Thursday, that's not the case because your homework's due on the day after, and the GRQ won't be due until Sunday. So. But every other week you run the chance that where you're going to have 2 assignments due at least once a week. Not always, but it can happen. And so be aware of that. That's your schedule. I would encourage you to print that out and use that and take that with you. Okay? So this is our Canvas course page. You should be fairly familiar with it by now. It's fairly boilerplate. They've since sort of normalized this. I need to get rid of this thing right here. But you can go into the course welcome. There's my lovely picture. Nice, professionally done. Hard to believe that a professional photographer couldn't have found slightly more photographic content than me, but nonetheless, there that is. Yeah. And there's a little biography and all my information. A nice link to the website where you can see, learn even more about me because I'm so fascinating. Anyway, there's that, okay? And so that's from the home page. So from the home page, you have the welcome and sort of bio for me, and then you have the link to the syllabus and the schedule right here, okay? The main substance of the course, you're probably going to rely over here, but it's in the modules is where you can go to see them and just go in order. Now, if you see this symbol right here, this means unpublished, this means published. You're only seeing that now because I'm logged in as an instructor and you won't be. I can go to view as student and then everything gets kicked out, right? So this will be the course information module. I will likely include at some point a link to the syllabus and schedule as well, or the files themselves, put them right there. I need to fill out this information here for textbook because they have special language they want me to use, and I haven't seen the language yet. So we will see. And then, of course, Courseologies should be the exact same thing we went to just a moment ago, and it is, right? So that's what that is. All right, and so this is what a typical module looks like. This is Unit 1. Unit 1 consists of the first two chapters, but there is an appendix here. So here's your pre-assignment. Here's your day of assignment, your class assignment, your lecture assignment. And these are PowerPoint slides just to help you. You don't have to download them. You don't have to have them. You're welcome to just ignore that altogether. But they are there if you want them. So those will be the slides that you see in the video. And then there's the homework assignment the day after, the post class assignment. All right. And that's pretty standard for all of them. There is a question here. Let me show you how your Edpuzzles look. Fairly straightforward. Not too big of a problem, I don't think. It's not going to let me. It won't let me log in because I'm not a student. I'm a teacher. So my teacher credentials won't work in this. So I have to leave student view, and then it'll come right up. Watch. Sorry, I forgot it. All right. So here this is. You can't skip. You only get one shot at this test. And each one of these is a question. Most of them don't have anywhere near this many questions. Now you know why the first unit exam is only 2 chapters, because there's it's just that intro stuff. What is the difference between macro and micro? Normative and positive. What's the what are the 4 economic resources? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, all that stuff. There's just a lot of sort of foundational knowledge trapped in those first 2 chapters before we get to supply and demand to kind of go over, and there's a lot there. So your unit exams are 25 questions. And you have 5 of them. I could have done like 3 unit exam questions and had them be 50 questions apiece, but that would have meant that you're having to understand and try to absorb more information to be successful in the test. I thought fewer tests more often was better than more longer tests less frequently. But that was how I came. But anyway, here they are. So that's what that is. This is what it sounds like.
This chapter introduces many of the fundamental concepts.
They use different voices on some of the slides. That you'll hear that voice several times, but there's also an Asian sounding voice, I think, and a male American voice, and I think an English voice. I think they're being ridiculous and trying to prove how diverse they are or something, but it's AI voices. What are you doing? It's a little silly, don't you think? They're just using AI voices on this thing. Anyway, so that's that. So, most of them, like I said, don't have anywhere near that many questions. Okay. So, for example, the appendix only has 1 question, I think. Okay. I don't know why it decided not to come back like it always does. So unit 1, which you can go to right here, you'll see that it should probably only have 1 question, I think. And this is about some of the math and how to read graphs and economics and stuff. And see, here's all the students. One little question that you can't get to. You can't move ahead. You got to watch the whole video for it to get submitted. Yep, I'm cruel that way. I absolutely insist that my students learn. Nerve of me, huh? All right, so there's that one. And you can go into any of these. It's a very similar structure. Pre-class assignment, class assignment, post-class assignment every time. All right, for each chapter. Appendix. This is the PowerPoint slides for the chapter and the appendix. This is the. I'm gonna drag that right there. Put it down here with this. All right, and then there's the actually it's above it. Here. Boom. I don't know if you can hear my son in the next room. That's him playing Fortnite. He's 12 years old, and he thinks that the world begins and ends with Fortnite. And so he sometimes gets a little vocal in his admonition of other players. Anyway, so that's kind of the layout for that. All right. I'll also show you. You can't see these exam modules yet, but they're here. And inside the exam module is quite a bit of useful information. Don't worry about this. I imported it from my fall class, so I've got to update the dates. But you're not having a test tomorrow, so we're good. Chill. But in addition to the link to the actual exam, this is where you'll go to take the exam, and that's the link you'll use. Notice again, Respondus Lockdown Browser webcam. Gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. It's not negotiable. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm letting you know you gotta have it, okay? Please. But there's other things here. So with units in macro, this does not apply to micro, but in macroeconomics, in units 2, 3, 4, and 5, I do place some additional practice. So, for example, here's some supply and demand practice. I give you the key so you can see, what you need to do. But this is just more opportunity to engage with the material and for you to learn it better. Okay. I also provide you with an exam topics list. So that's what this looks like right here. This helps you narrow your focus as you're preparing that 1-page sheet of notes. This will help you do that. Of course, it has to come up first. Let's go. So I'll just download it. But there's that. Right? These are all the ones that are in Unit 2. These are questions you'll see on the Unit 2 exam. All right. That will eventually come up. You may have to refresh or something. You never know. All right. So there's that. There is also a practice exam here. Now, remember what I told you. I go through the test bank and I find 2 questions for any topic I want to ask you about. And so these are what I will do. Remember, I put one of those questions on the exam, one of those questions in my lecture quiz. This is an amalgamation of all my lecture quiz questions. This is all 25 questions that you had already seen in my lecture quizzes, and you're going to need to know why the answer is what the answer is for these for it to be all that helpful on the other one. All right. So it's not enough to just know that what the answer to this question is. You need to know why that answer is right and why the other ones are wrong, so that when you see another question worded differently and not always about the exact same thing. Remember, I had a question about long run, a question about short run, and to me, because they're talking about the same aggregate supply, that's fair game. So you gotta know that. And in the topics list, I'll put it, for example, in that one, when I get to it and I'm making my topics list, I'll say, okay, well, that's long run versus short run for the aggregate supply. So that will be what I label that. So anyway, all this to make this stuff available to you in the hopes that it will help you. It's also good for me to know who's doing this. So while this does not count as a grade, it is not extra credit or anything like that. You are not under any obligation to do this. When you want to know halfway through the class why your grade's not higher or whatever, I'm going to look at this stuff. Are you doing the practice exam? How long did you spend on the practice exam? How many times did you take the practice exam? You know, those are all things that can tell me stuff about whether or not you're a serious student or you're just looking to get by with the bare minimum, and you're playing me for a fool. So don't do that. All right, so that's the practice exam. And that's pretty much it, and that's what you're going to find in here all the time, this stuff. It's all organized the same way. Like I said, the unit exams are not available to you yet, but they will be. I'm going to go in and change all these dates. Here's the practice exam for this one. I'll make it all available. You know, for example, I can just easily go in here real quick, and the first exam is due. This is on Monday, January 27th. So all I have to do now is go in here, due date, January 27th, 27, okay? And now I want to copy this, so I don't have to keep going through that same calendar over and over. And it will be available that morning until that evening. You'll have 24 hours to answer the questions, to take the test, okay? And then, boom. Save that. Go back to my modules page. Get my head back where it was. And now when this scrolls back down, you should now see that it's got a date of January 27th. So I'm going to make this available. I will not be making this available. I'm going to make that, that's not going to be available right now because I don't want you to know what the questions are on your lecture quizzes until you are done with your last lecture quiz. So when the last lecture quiz is Wednesday, January 22nd, on the 23rd, I will activate this and make your practice exam probably right after that class, in fact. I'll do it, and you can see me do it if you're in my class, but y'all won't know that. But at some point that day, for y'all, your lecture quiz isn't due until the end of the day, so it'll probably be the next morning that this gets active. But you will see that in there, and now you'll see your first unit exam. The other ones will get active before you get there. Okay, all the material is already here for all of these. I just don't have all the exams set up perfectly for you. But all this material is here, and it should not be any problem to access it, and it's very consistent. I think the structure has worked well so far. Wanted to show you that the microeconomics class, online micro, is very similar. So let me go back over to my dashboard here and show you the online micro. Here's my face-to-face micro. Here's online micro. It's only one section as opposed to macro. Macro tends to be a lot more popular, but there are people who want micro. In fact, this micro online course exists because a student emailed me and asked if I could teach an online micro course. And I said I would ask, and they did. So, but it's the exact same thing. There's the course welcome, same intro and everything, same ugly picture and whatnot. And then here's the same schedule, the syllabus there. This schedule, of course, is more for different because there's different assignments. So you can see that for Unit 2, for example, there's a chapter added in Unit 2 that's not there for the macro section about elasticity, which we don't cover. And pretty much from Chapter 6 on, micro is very different. Now there is some overlap at the end when we talk about trade and forex, right? So keep that in mind. but otherwise, this is exactly the same class. Some of the content is different, but the structure, let me go to one that, so for example, the Unit 4 resources and income. You will have your Edpuzzle videos in here before you get here. But you can see the GRQs here, there'll be Edpuzzle here, then there's the homework. Same structure. Different content, different chapters in most cases, but very similarly structured. So my micro class and my macro class are very, very similar. I just pulled up the macro first. So didn't want my micro students feeling left out. So, but it's the exact same course. And as I said, I will have the Edpuzzle videos loaded in there for you to use first thing. So, folks, best of luck this semester. Looking forward to it. And I hope to hear from some of you soon. Y'all be safe. Be kind out there. Have a good first week of school and keep the momentum going. All right? Thank y'all.